Every year, Alabama has a ton of NFL draft prospects. They also sign 5-star players and superhuman dudes every single year, and 2022 is no different. They have some terrific incoming freshmen, and they have some terrific 2022 draft prospects. The guy I want to highlight in today's video is a 6'7" freak of nature who could go in the top 5. We're going to talk about his story, his time at Alabama, and what's going to happen to him in the NFL. There are some people who think he could be the number 1 overall pick, and there's another guy who thinks he could be the biggest bust in the draft. Today we're going to talk about that debate and everything to do with him, so without further ado, let's get started. You're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than Alabama offensive lineman Evan Neal. But who is Evan Neal? Let's go back in time. Alabama has not had a number 1 overall pick in quite a while actually. They haven't had one since 1948, and that's one of the most shocking statistics I've ever heard, but it is true. Evan Neal has a chance to change that, and honestly, this is always how it was supposed to be for him. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on his childhood, but I'm assuming he was a pretty big kid and was naturally an offensive lineman. He was such a big deal that he would get to be a part of the high school recruiting process and would be able to go the prep school route. That meant the NFL was going to be in his future because he was likely going to be a 5 or a 4-star recruit. He left his hometown in Florida at the age of 15 to play at IMG, which meant he's been preparing for the NFL since then. IMG is by far the top prep school in high school football, and when you go there, you're trying to go play at the highest level, and football is your career path. So why did Evan Neal go to IMG? It was pretty simple. He said, quote, "It was tough leaving the house at 15 years old and living on my own for the first time, but it was all part of the plan. Playing in the NFL has always been a dream of mine, and I knew IMG would put me in the best position to be able to do that." He definitely had the physical tools to be a big-time prospect, which is why at the age of 16, he committed to Alabama. But after only 9 days, he would back out of that and go back to ground zero with the recruiting process. Since he was an IMG, he was playing against good competition and constantly was on national television. In turn, he was used to the high pressure and lights of college football, while other guys weren't. But where would Evan Neal go? He was now a 5-star recruit and one of those players that every coach and program in the nation wanted to get their hands on. He narrowed his list of schools, but eventually chose Alabama over Miami, Florida State, Auburn, Penn State, Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, and USC. He ended up choosing Alabama, and it seemed to be for 2 reasons: program prestige and Coach Saban. Neal said, quote, "It's a blessing to be able to go into a program like that already has championships in place and they compete for one every year. It's a blessing. Hopefully I go over there and experience what winning a championship is like. That's why I'm going there. I want to work hard, and they're the best at working hard. I just feel like going through Coach Saban's program, they'll push me to be the best that I can be." He is now going to continue the IMG to Alabama pipeline, and he was a big person and a big deal. According to 24/7 Sports, Neal was the number 1 offensive tackle, a 5-star recruit, and the 7th best player in the class of 2019. He's also listed as the 217th best recruit of all time. The guy was 6'7" and 360 pounds coming out of high school, so he was already ready to play at the SEC level, but how long would that take? Let's take a look. I don't really know what are good or bad statistics for offensive linemen, but as a true freshman in 2019, he would play multiple positions across the line for the Tide. He helped them have one of the most efficient lines in the nation, and because of that, he was selected as a freshman All-American by 24/7 Sports and multiple other outlets. He seemed to play a lot of snaps, and that would continue as he became a full-time starter in 2020. He ended up starting at right tackle and helped block for the number 1 scoring offense in college football. He said he wanted to go to Alabama to play at the highest level and win a championship, and that is what would happen. Led by Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, and Mac Jones, the Tide went undefeated and won the 2021 national championship. Neal was a huge part of that. Going into the 2021 season, Neal was seen as a top 5 to top 10 pick, but he'd just have to stay healthy and continue what he had already been doing. He was named a team captain for the 2021 campaign and started 15 games at left tackle. That's the most important position on the line, and he was a physically dominant player there. He once again helped Alabama win the SEC and go to the national championship game. They ended up losing, but he already had his ring, and now he was a first-team All-American and a projected number 1 overall pick by some outlets. He ended up declaring and had a good combine, so now what's going to happen to him? Well, a lot of people see him as a consensus top 5 pick. Former NFL offensive lineman from Iowa, Brian Bulaga, said this, quote, "I would not draft Evan Neal. With the weight risk comes an increased chance for injury, so he could be a huge bust." That definitely sent some shockwaves around the NFL scouting world, but there is some validity to that argument. Neal is a monster human being, and he is one knee or leg injury away from potentially ruining his career. That can be said for a lot of offensive linemen, but we've seen in the NBA with Zion Williamson that too much weight is not a good thing, and that is a red flag. Personally, I'm not too worried about it, but Bulaga probably knows a little bit more than I do. Neal, though, doesn't care either way. He said, quote, "Wherever I get drafted, I'll be extremely happy. What prospect wouldn't want to go number 1 overall, though? That would be a dream come true for sure, but whatever team calls my name, I will be extremely happy and extremely grateful." So yes, the consensus is that he'll be a top 10 pick, and there's a small chance he could go number 1 overall, but Evan Neal has been preparing for this moment since he was 15 years old. He's lived up to the hype at every stage. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in the NFL, and to answer the question in the title of today's video about him being the biggest bust of the draft, I disagree with it, but we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think though? If you're a Bama fan, what do you think of Evan Neal? Who's another draft prospect I can take a look at in my next video? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below. Smash that like button if you want to support the channel, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.